Captain Ethan Rain's ship descended through Xyler 7 atmosphere with a gentle shudder. Below him, the world stretched like a jewel. Luminous forests shimmered in colors no human eyes had ever fully catalogued. Rivers glowed faintly, reflecting the light of twin moons that hung low in the hazy sky. The air smelled sweet and metallic, carrying an energy that made Ethan's heart beat faster. His mission was simple, or at least it was supposed to be. He was here to investigate a derelict spaceship, abandoned for decades, according to the intercepted reports. Something in those ruins had caught the attention of the Galactic Exploration Corps, and Ethan, with his reputation for handling dangerous tasks, had been sent. He checked the instruments. The derelict was still in orbit, slowly spinning, almost as if it were caught in its own silent rhythm. "This place feels wrong," muttered Lieutenant Mara Chen, his second-in-command, who was monitoring the ship's sensors beside him. Ethan frowned but said nothing. "Keep your eyes open," he replied. He had a sixth sense for trouble, honed through years of surviving tight spots in hostile territories, and something about this mission already felt off. The ship landed in a clearing, the glowing forest stretching around them in all directions. Ethan's boots sank slightly into the soft, mossy ground as he stepped out. He adjusted his gear and signaled the others to follow. The air was alive with a subtle hum, almost like a heartbeat. He shook his head. "It's just the planet," he said to himself. "Planets can hum sometimes." As they approached the ruins, Ethan noticed a figure moving ahead. At first, it looked like a trick of the light, a shadow bending in the luminescent haze. But then the figure stepped forward and the team froze. She was unlike anyone Ethan had seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly, silver with hints of violet. Her eyes glowed with an inner light, deep and sorrowful. She was beautiful, but there was a weight to her presence, a sadness that seemed to pull the air around her down with it. Two small children clung to her sides, their eyes wide and curious, staring at the humans with a mixture of fear and fascination. The woman stepped forward cautiously. You are human," she said, her voice soft but urgent. "Please do not leave." Ethan raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "We don't mean any harm, we're just exploring the ruins." She shook her head quickly, silver hair falling around her face. "No, you must stay. My children, they need a father." The words struck Ethan like a lightning bolt. He had traveled across galaxies, faced hostile alien factions, and survived situations most would call impossible. But never had a plea like this landed so heavily on his chest. Mara stepped forward. "Captain, this could be a trap." Ethan's gaze stayed on the woman. "Or it could be a call for help," he said quietly. Something in her eyes told him the danger she feared wasn't a trick. It was real. The woman introduced herself as Liara. Her children, Kale and Myra, were her entire world. The family had suffered greatly. Their home had been attacked, her husband killed in a raid orchestrated by a rival alien faction. The remnants of their life lay in ruins, and now she feared for her children's future. Ethan felt an unfamiliar tug at his conscience. He had always been a wanderer, a man who belonged to no one and nothing. But looking at Liara and her children, he felt a sense of responsibility creeping in, a sense he had not known in years. As they spoke, Ethan noticed something strange. The children's features, though alien, had hints of human traits. Their eyes were unusually expressive, their hands nimble and intelligent. Kale reached for Ethan's gear instinctively, examining it with careful curiosity. Myra tugged at her mother's sleeve but kept peeking at Ethan, fascinated by his presence. Liara's plea became more desperate. "I cannot raise them alone. They need guidance, protection, someone strong, someone wise. You are human. You are different. You understand danger and courage. You could help us survive." Ethan swallowed. He knew he could leave. That was always his choice. But something deep inside told him this was not a mission he could walk away from without regret. The ruins themselves were waiting. The derelict ship in orbit held secrets. encrypted messages left behind by Liara's late husband. Ethan accessed the data, scrolling through fragments of transmissions and logs. The husband had been part of a secret project, one that involved the children's genetic potential. Kale and Myra were not ordinary. Their minds were capable of connecting human intelligence with the alien species, advanced cognitive systems. They were a bridge, a possibility of unity between species. But the messages also warned of danger. Rival factions would stop at nothing to exploit this potential. Ethan realized that staying wasn't just a moral choice, it was a strategic one. Protecting this family might prevent a war that could spread across the galaxy. That night under the twin moons of Xylar 7, Ethan stayed in the forest with the family. Fires burned softly, casting dancing shadows across the clearing. Kale and Myra sat close to their mother, watching Ethan as he quietly reviewed the derelict's logs. "Are you really going to stay?" Liara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan paused. I think I have to," he said. "But it's not just for you, it's for them, and it's for what they represent." Liara nodded slowly, tears glimmering in her luminous eyes. She understood the weight of what she had just asked and the sacrifice Ethan was making. Yet, there was a flicker of hope, fragile but real. The night was filled with strange sounds. The hum of the forest, distant cries of alien creatures, the whisper of the wind through crystal-like trees. Ethan lay awake, considering the journey ahead. Protecting this family would be dangerous. It would test every skill he had ever learned and every instinct he possessed. But for the first time in a long while, he felt a purpose that went beyond himself. Morning brought more discoveries. The forest itself seemed alive, almost aware of their presence. Ethan and Mara explored the nearby areas, finding remnants of ancient alien technology and traps set by unknown forces. The family's home had been carefully hidden, but now that humans were present, the subtle traces of their existence could be detected. Kale and Myra followed Ethan cautiously, asking questions that showed their sharp minds. Kale's curiosity was technical. He wanted to understand how the ship worked, how Ethan's tools operated, how humans managed to survive in space. Myra was more intuitive, noticing patterns, asking why things were designed a certain way, and observing Ethan's every move. Liara watched silently, relief and worry mingling in her expression. She could see Ethan's humanity shining through, not just his skills, but his patience, his empathy, his courage. It was something rare, something that could teach her children what it meant to survive and thrive. Their quiet exploration was interrupted by a faint tremor in the ground. Ethan's sensors picked up unusual energy readings. Mara frowned. Something's coming, something big. Before anyone could react, a shadow moved across the forest floor. A pack of alien creatures, predatory, fast, and intelligent, emerged from the foliage. They were hunting. Ethan's training kicked in. He grabbed his weapon and herded the children behind him. Using the environment to his advantage, he led the creatures into a narrow canyon where their size and numbers worked against them. He fought efficiently, instinctively, using a combination of alien terrain knowledge and human ingenuity. The creatures were driven off, but Ethan knew this was only a test. If they were hunting here, someone, or something, was actively tracking this family. Later, as the sun set and the forest glowed with soft bioluminescence, Ethan gathered the family. "You're not safe yet," he said bluntly. "They will come again and we need to be ready. I can't promise safety, but I can promise we'll fight." Liara nodded, gripping her children tightly. "Then we will fight with you," she said. Her voice was firm, carrying a strength Ethan hadn't anticipated. The day ended with quiet determination. Ethan built simple defenses around the clearing, showing Kale and Myra how to recognize danger and improvise solutions. The children absorbed everything, eager and attentive. Liara watched, her heart heavy but filled with a growing trust. Ethan realized something profound that night. Humans were often underestimated, even by themselves, but it wasn't raw strength or advanced technology that defined them. It was ingenuity, courage, and the will to protect those who depended on them. In this alien world, those traits were more valuable than any weapon. As the twin moons rose, Ethan stood watch while the family slept. He had no illusions about the challenges ahead. Enemies were out there, seeking to exploit the children's potential. But he also knew this. Together, they had a chance. Not just to survive, but to show that human courage and wisdom could stand against the most alien and dangerous forces in the galaxy. And somewhere deep in his mind, Ethan knew that once he had made this choice, there was no turning back. He had entered a story larger than himself, a story where humanity, in its simplest and strongest form, could shine brighter than any alien technology or cunning. He looked down at Kale and Myra, sleeping peacefully beside their mother, and whispered to himself, "I'll stay, I'll fight. For them, for what they could become for humanity." The forest around them hummed softly, as if acknowledging the beginning of something extraordinary. The derelict ship above them remained a silent sentinel, holding secrets that would shape the future of not just this family, but potentially the entire galaxy. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon and exhaled slowly. Tomorrow, the real trials would begin. But for now, for this night, they were together, and that was enough. The morning light filtered through the crystal-like leaves of Xylar 7 forest, casting patterns of violet and green across the clearing. Ethan woke to the soft sounds of Kale and Myra chattering as they explored their small, reinforced camp. Liara was already tending to a small garden, carefully nurturing alien plants that glowed faintly in the early sun. Despite the serene beauty around them, Ethan could feel the tension lingering in the air. The shadow of danger was never far. He stood and stretched, scanning the horizon. His instincts told him they had survived the first threat, but the real danger had only just begun. He needed to teach the family more than basic survival. He had to prepare them for calculated threats, and for that, he would have to combine human ingenuity with the natural resources of this alien world. "Captain," Mara said as she joined him, "we can't just wait here. Whoever attacked the house before, they will come back and they will be stronger." Ethan nodded. "I know. That's why today we train." He looked at Kale and Myra, who had turned to watch him with bright, curious eyes. "You two are going to learn how to think like humans, how to see traps, how to plan ahead, how to protect yourselves." Kale's eyes sparkled. "Like a soldier?" he asked. "Exactly like that," Ethan replied. "But you'll also use your brains more than your muscles. Thinking fast and being clever can save you more than strength ever will." Myra tilted her head. "Can I help too?" Ethan smiled. "Yes, you'll help in ways Kale can't imagine. Humans have different ways of solving problems, and you have a gift too. You'll see patterns no one else does." They spent the morning exploring the surrounding forest, examining alien plants, strange glowing rocks, and rivers that shimmered with energy. Ethan used the opportunity to teach the children about strategy. He set up small exercises, hiding objects and asking them to retrieve them without triggering a trap he created. Kale excelled in mechanical thinking, understanding the subtle workings of levers, stones, and ropes. Myra had a natural intuition, noticing patterns in the forest's light and movement. Liara watched from a distance, quietly observing Ethan with a mixture of gratitude and growing admiration. She saw how the children responded to him, how his patience and intelligence inspired them. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a small hope that her family might survive this chaos. Their training was interrupted by a low rumble from the forest. Ethan froze. Mara's sensors had already picked up something moving at high speed, too fast for a normal animal. "They're coming," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "We need to get ready." The forest erupted as a group of alien attackers appeared, sleek, shadowy figures with sharp claws and advanced weaponry. These weren't the wild creatures from the night before. They were organized, intelligent, and hunting with precision. Ethan grabbed Kale and Myra, pulling them behind a barricade he had improvised from alien plants and rocks. "Remember what I taught you," he shouted. "Watch the shadows. Listen to the wind. Think." Kale crouched, mimicking Ethan's stance, his mind already calculating angles and escape routes. Myra's eyes darted around, noticing the faint shimmer of an approaching figure against the forest's glow. Together, they worked instinctively, using the techniques Ethan had drilled into them. Ethan fought with calm precision, blending alien tech with human ingenuity. He created diversions using energy bursts from small devices, tricking the attackers into traps they could not anticipate. His strategy relied not on brute force but on thinking several steps ahead, predicting enemy movements, and using the environment as an advantage. By midday, the attackers had been driven off, leaving scorch marks and broken vegetation behind. Ethan took a deep breath, his mind racing with what had just happened. "This was just a scouting party," he said grimly. "They will come back, and next time they'll bring more." Liara hugged her children tightly, tears in her eyes. "You saved them, you saved us," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "No, we saved ourselves. Humans are clever, yes, but this family, your courage matters too. We fight together or we don't survive at all." Over the next several days, Ethan pushed the family harder. He taught them how to use the terrain to their advantage, how to improvise weapons from alien materials, and how to recognize and avoid danger before it struck. Kale developed an ingenious way to camouflage their camp, blending alien flora with human ingenuity. Myra devised early warning systems using light and sound, predicting movement before enemies arrived. Liara contributed too, using her knowledge of the planet and its creatures to guide Ethan in creating traps and safe paths. She showed that intelligence wasn't limited to humans. It was in understanding one's environment and using it wisely. Together, they built a small, fortified home that could withstand attacks and provide refuge. One evening, while the children slept, Ethan and Liara sat by the fire. The twin moons bathed the clearing in soft silver light. "You're not like any human I've known," Liara said softly. "You carry courage, yes, but also heart. You care for them, for us, as if they are your own." Ethan stared into the flames. "I didn't expect this," he admitted. "I came here for a mission. I never thought I would stay for anyone, but now I can't imagine leaving." Liara reached for his hand, hesitant but trusting. "We can survive this with you, but you must know danger is coming that neither of us can fully prepare for. The people who killed my husband, they know we exist now. They will stop at nothing." Ethan nodded. "Then we make sure they don't succeed. We outsmart them every step of the way." The next attack came sooner than expected. From the forest shadows, a larger force emerged, stronger and better equipped than before. Ethan had anticipated this and led the family through a series of traps, using decoys, pitfalls, and distractions to slow them down. Kale and Myra worked alongside him, their small hands and quick minds proving invaluable. Liara stayed close, protecting her children and learning to rely on Ethan's strategies. The attackers were clever, but they had never encountered humans who could predict, adapt, and improvise in ways no alien faction could. The fight was tense, exhausting, and dangerous, but by combining human ingenuity with Liara's knowledge of the planet, they managed to repel the threat. Afterward, Ethan gathered the family. "You've done well," he said, pride in his voice. "You've learned quickly, and that is exactly what will keep us alive." Kale beamed. "I want to keep learning. I want to be smart like you." Ethan smiled, ruffling his hair. "You are already smarter than most humans your age. Keep thinking, keep observing. That is how you survive." Myra looked up at him, eyes wide. "And what about the others, the ones who will come?" Ethan's expression hardened. "We'll be ready. Every step they take, we will have a plan. Humans survive because we think, because we adapt, because we never give up." You will see this for yourselves." Liara stood silently, watching him. She realized that the children were growing not just in skill but in confidence. Under Ethan's guidance, they were learning more than survival. They were learning courage, resilience, and strategy. They were becoming more than victims. They were becoming the next step in something extraordinary. Days turned into weeks. The forest became their classroom and their battlefield. Every day brought challenges, and every challenge forged the family stronger. Ethan never let them become complacent. They practiced, trained, and planned. Cale began designing small mechanical devices, inspired by human engineering. Myra observed energy flows in the rivers and forests, discovering patterns that even Ethan found fascinating. But danger never truly vanished. One morning, sensors picked up a distant fleet of ships entering orbit around Xylar 7. The enemy had arrived, a full-scale force capable of overwhelming them. Ethan realized that the coming confrontation would test everything they had learned, their strength, intelligence, and courage. That night, he gathered the family and spoke plainly. "Tomorrow they will come. They will try to take you, to use your abilities for their own gain. We cannot run, we cannot hide, but we can fight smarter, stronger, and together. That is what makes humans different. That is what makes us survive." Liara took his hand. "We trust you," she said simply, her eyes shining with resolve. Cale and Myra nodded, determination in their young faces. Ethan felt a surge of pride and hope. These children, though small, were brave. They had human ingenuity and courage running through them. Together, they were a force no enemy could underestimate. As the twin moons rose over the forest, Ethan stood watch. He looked at the glowing trees, the calm rivers, and the quiet, sleeping children. Tomorrow, the real trial would come. But he knew deep in his heart that humanity, its courage, its intelligence, its will to protect, was their greatest weapon. And with that weapon, they had a chance. The enemy fleet moved in silence above, unaware that the humans and their allies were ready. Ethan's mind raced with strategies, contingency plans, and traps. He had taught the children well, and Liara's knowledge of the planet added an extra layer of protection. Together, they were more than a family. They were a team, a shield, and a spark of hope against overwhelming odds. As dawn broke, the forest glimmered with anticipation. The war was coming, but so was human courage, ingenuity, and determination. And no alien force, no matter how powerful, would underestimate that again. The sky above Xylar 7 was dark with the shadow of the approaching fleet. Ethan stood on the edge of the clearing, eyes scanning the alien horizon. The twin moons cast an eerie glow, reflecting off the metallic hulls of the ships above. They were numerous, advanced, and organized, an overwhelming force by any standard. Yet for the first time, Ethan did not feel fear. He felt focus. He felt purpose. He felt humanity. He turned to Liara, who stood holding Cale and Myra close. Her violet eyes were wide but resolute. "Are you ready?" he asked. Liara nodded. "For my children, I am ready. For them, I would face the stars themselves." Ethan crouched, pointing at the forest paths he had used for training. "We fight smart. We use every advantage this land gives us. Cale, Myra, you both know the drills. We move when I say and we act fast. Our goal isn't just to survive, it's to make them regret coming here at all." Cale's face lit up with determination. "We can do this, Captain." Myra, her sharp eyes scanning the approaching ships, added, "And they won't see our traps coming." Ethan smiled faintly. That spark of human ingenuity and courage was exactly what had kept them alive so far. And now, it would turn the tide. The enemy fleet descended, landing their ground forces near the perimeter of the forest. They moved with precise coordination, attempting to encircle the camp. Ethan had anticipated this. "Positions," he shouted. The family moved swiftly into their carefully prepared stations, behind camouflaged barricades and hidden trenches. Ethan's traps were a combination of alien flora, human engineering, and creativity. energy nets hidden in the trees, pits covered with glowing moss, and mechanical snares were all designed to slow and confuse the attackers. Kale operated a small device he had built, creating a series of flashing light diversions to mislead the enemy. Myra monitored the forest, predicting movements and alerting Ethan to any threat approaching too quickly. The first wave of attackers stepped into the clearing, confident, heavily armed, but unaware of what awaited them. They fell into traps almost immediately. Nets caught them mid-step, pits swallowed vehicles, and energy pulses stunned their advanced weapons. Ethan watched, adjusting and improvising in real time, directing the family like a conductor leading an orchestra of survival. Liara, though not a fighter by nature, used her intimate knowledge of the forest to guide Ethan and the children. She directed energy traps, redirected attackers, and even rescued a stumbling Kale when he had almost fallen into a concealed pit. Her courage, paired with human ingenuity, made them an unexpectedly formidable team. The attackers regrouped and advanced in larger numbers. Ethan realized brute force would not win this battle. Instead, he needed strategy, deception, and precise execution. He led the enemy through a labyrinth of traps, narrow corridors formed by towering crystalline trees, and energy-sensing fields that reacted to movement. Every step slowed the enemy, every diversion created confusion, and every action gave the family a small but crucial advantage. Kale's mechanical devices proved vital. He had fashioned simple but effective drones from alien parts, small floating spheres that emitted light and noise, drawing the enemy into deadly traps. Myra's predictive observations allowed them to anticipate attack patterns, giving Ethan the ability to strike first and with precision. Hours passed, the battle intensifying. The forest shook with explosions, energy pulses, and the roars of alien combatants. Yet through it all, Ethan's leadership remained steady. He moved like a human force of nature, thinking 3 steps ahead, adapting as the enemy adapted, and never allowing fear to take hold. At one point, a massive alien vehicle broke through their outer defenses, threatening to crush the barricades and strike at the family. Ethan's mind raced. Using his knowledge of physics and the terrain, he created a diversion. He lured the vehicle toward a narrow canyon filled with crystal formations, where the enemy's size became a disadvantage. Energy pulses reflected off the crystals, overloading their systems and immobilizing the vehicle. Kale and Myra watched in awe. They were not just surviving, they were actively shaping the outcome of the battle. Liara, seeing the children's growth, felt a pride that mingled with fear. This fight was their fight, but it was also proof that humans could inspire courage, ingenuity, and hope, even in the most desperate situations. The enemy commander, a tall, armored alien with glowing red eyes, finally appeared. He had underestimated the humans and their allies. His fury was palpable as he moved forward, directing his forces personally. Ethan met him with calm determination. This was no longer just defense. It was human strategy versus alien might. Ethan observed the commander's tactics and predicted his moves. Using a combination of traps, decoys, and improvisation, he led the commander into a concealed pit filled with high-energy traps. The alien struggled, caught completely off guard, while Kale activated a series of devices that disabled his weapons temporarily. Myra, perched on a nearby ridge, provided cover guidance, signaling when and where to act. The tide of battle shifted. The enemy, witnessing the commander's defeat, began to falter. Their coordination broke down, their movements became hesitant, and their morale plummeted. Ethan pressed the advantage, using precise strikes and clever diversions to drive them out of the forest entirely. By nightfall, the forest was quiet. The enemy had retreated, their forces scattered, their plans in ruins. The family gathered in the clearing, exhausted but victorious. Ethan looked at Kale and Myra, their faces smudged with dirt, their eyes bright with accomplishment. He looked at Liara, standing tall despite the ordeal. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it together." Liara hugged him, tears glistening. You saved us all, you gave them a future." Ethan shook his head. "No, you all saved yourselves. I only helped guide the way. That's what humans do best. We adapt, we think, we fight for those we care about." Kale, still wide-eyed, said, "Captain, I think I understand now. Humans are amazing, aren't they?" Ethan laughed softly. "We try to be. The victory was not just survival, it was proof. Humanity, even alone on a distant planet, could face overwhelming odds with courage, ingenuity, and resilience. And sometimes, that was enough to protect life, inspire hope, and change the course of history." Over the next few days, the family worked to repair the damage, strengthen their defenses, and prepare for any future threats. Ethan continued teaching, guiding, and protecting. Kale and Myra grew stronger, more confident, more capable. Liara, now fully trusting him, focused on nurturing the children and assisting in strategic planning. They learned to combine human ingenuity with alien knowledge in ways neither species had attempted before. Small devices crafted from alien materials became clever traps. Predictive algorithms based on forest patterns allowed them to anticipate threats, and the children's combined abilities grew sharper every day. Ethan realized that this was more than survival, it was a new beginning. The children were a bridge between species, proof that cooperation, intelligence, and courage could forge bonds stronger than any weapon. Humanity, in its simplest form, had left a mark on this alien world, a mark of hope, ingenuity, and resilience. Months later, the forest had transformed. The clearing became a thriving sanctuary, a blend of human design and alien life. Kale and Myra were no longer just children. They were students, proteges, and allies. Liara smiled more often, her grief tempered by the strength and guidance Ethan had provided. One evening, under the twin moons, Ethan stood with the family on a ridge overlooking the forest. The wind carried the faint hum of alien life, mingled with the distant twinkle of the stars. Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come to Xylar 7 as a wanderer, a human alone in the cosmos. He was leaving, or rather staying, not just as a protector but as a part of something larger than himself. Liara placed her hand on his shoulder. "You stayed. You could have left, but you didn't. You became part of our lives. You became their father." Ethan looked at Kale and Myra, sleeping soundly nearby, and felt the truth of it in his chest. "I didn't come here to be a father," he admitted softly. "But I am proud to be one now. Not because I had to, but because I chose to." Kale stirred, opening his eyes, and Myra leaned against Ethan. "We're glad you stayed," they said in unison. Ethan smiled, a rare, unguarded expression. "And I am glad I stayed. Humanity has a way of surviving, of protecting, of inspiring. We are clever, stubborn, and brave. And when it matters most, that is exactly what the universe needs." The twin moons reflected off the crystal trees, illuminating the family in a soft glow. Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the courage, ingenuity, and resilience of humans on a distant alien world. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt truly at home. Not just on this strange planet, but in the role he had never sought but had found, the role of protector, guide, and father. Humanity had triumphed, not through brute force, but through intelligence, courage, and heart. And that, he knew, was a power no enemy could ever underestimate. The forest hummed softly, alive with possibility. Ethan, Liara, Kale, and Myra looked out across their home, united and unbroken. The challenges they had faced had forged them into more than a family. They were a symbol of what humans could achieve when they combined ingenuity with heart, courage with strategy, and love with determination. The galaxy might hold countless dangers, but on Xylar 7 one truth had been proven. Humanity, when it chose to rise, could shine brighter than any star. And together they would face the future, whatever it held, with eyes wide open, hearts strong, and spirits unyielding.